Guys, today I'm really excited to share with you this DIY spice rack for less than $10. Let's get started. So you can see here my wonderful system for storing my seasonings. It's a couple of Dollar Tree baskets and they're just thrown in there unorganized. And you can see where I took a marker and wrote what each thing was on the lid, because if I didn't do that, I'd be digging around in the baskets to see which seasoning was which. I kept these baskets up on top of my fridge because I just didn't have a designated place, a good place for them in a drawer or in a cabinet, and I really just wanted them out and very handy so that I could grab what I needed when I'm cooking. This is the set of spice jars that I bought off of Amazon. 30 came in the set, and they are 4 ounces each. I will leave a link to these in the description box below. For each side of the spice rack, I'm going to use 2 of these garden stakes. I got them from Dollar General. They were $1 each. You could get them for even cheaper than $1 each if you bought a whole bundle, like at Home Depot. But I took them outside and I trimmed off the ends. And you'll just have to think about the size of the surface you're going to be putting your spice rack on. I'm putting it onto the side of my fridge, and so I just measured that area to see how long I needed to make each side. And you're going to want to sand these garden stakes well because they're pretty rough. For the shelves of the spice rack, I'm using these 5-gallon paint stir sticks, and I'm doing 4 shelves, so I need 4 paint stir sticks. I taped them with painter's tape on the end I was cutting off, and then took them outside and cut them off all together at once, so that they were all for sure going to be the same length. I'm making 2 groups of 2 of these garden stakes, and I'm going to glue them together and clamp them and let the adhesive set up. When you clamp your garden stakes, glue will leak out the sides, and so you'll want to take a damp rag and wipe up that excess glue. Now I have the 2 sides to my spice rack. Now for the brackets that each shelf will sit on, I'm using these cubes that I got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to glue together 2 cubes at a time, and each shelf will need 2 sets of these cubes. So each shelf will need 2 brackets, one on each end of the shelf. Because I will have 4 shelves, I will need 8 brackets. After the glue has completely set up, Then I'm going to use more wood glue to attach my brackets to the sides of the spice rack. I just divided evenly the number of inches of the sides of my spice rack. I divided that by the number of shelves I had, and then I had my spacing to make my shelves spaced evenly. And so for me, it was about 6.5 inches in between each shelf. After you have it all glued together, you could come back and use staples, use a staple gun, or if you have a brad nailer, that would be great. But it would surprise you how well this wood glue holds up, and it turned out very sturdy. Once I got the brackets attached to one side of my spice rack, I just used that side as a guide for the other side. And now it's time to attach the shelves on top of our little brackets that we made. So I'm just going to glue each shelf to the top of each bracket, all down one side, and then I'll assemble the whole thing and attach them to the other side. Now I'm taking another painter's stick and I cut it down to the width of my spice rack, and I'm going to place this on the back of the spice rack at the top. It's going to do two things. It really is going to enhance the look of it. It's going to look just be a little bit more detail, but also it's going to give us a place to put our extra strength magnets to adhere them to. Once all of our wood glue has set up, our spice rack is complete, and now all we have to do is glue our magnets all along the top of that back piece of wood that we put up there. I got these magnets from Walmart. They're large extra strength magnets, and it was a couple of bucks for each pack, and I got 2 packs, and I'm going to use all of them just to make sure that this spice rack is going to be good and secure mounted on the side of my refrigerator. I'm using E6000 and I'm going to glue each magnet and then clamp each one. This whole project really took a couple of days just because of the time that I had to allow for each time I would glue something, letting that glue set up. There were so many magnets that I ran out of clamps and had to use clothespins. Now I just had on hand 2 extra magnets and decided to attach them to the bottom on the back of the spice rack just for extra hold. I don't think they were needed, but I just had them, so I went ahead and used them. You could paint or stain your spice rack whatever color you'd like. I'm using antique Waverly wax. Now you're going to have to attach something to the front of each shelf or your spices are just going to fall off. You need some sort of barrier there. So I thought about using dowels, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go the even cheaper route and just use some twine to hold, to keep my seasonings from falling off. So to attach the twine to the front of each shelf, I'm just going to use these wooden thumbtacks that I had because I knew that I could stain these the same color as the spice rack. And so I'm just tapping these down into place, one on each side to hold the twine on each end. And these wooden ones, they hammered in really well. You could also use metal thumbtacks to do this, or even a small nail. I wouldn't suggest plastic thumbtacks because I've hammered those before and they pretty much just break when you hammer them. So for the labels on your seasonings, there's several routes you can go. You can buy from Avery some printable labels. They have clear ones. They have different, types of labels that you can buy, and it just depends on the size of your jar. You're going to want to measure the area of your jar where your label is going to go. But I just decided to go this easy route, and I had this brown paper that I've had forever, and I just printed it off, made a list of my spices, printed them off, and I'm going to Mod Podge each label onto the front of each spice jar. And I know that if I ever needed to remove these, it wouldn't be too hard. Just use like a scraper and some acetone to remove the Mod Podge. And it wouldn't be too hard to get these off and change them out if they get too dirty or messed up or old, or I just need a different label. have the issue of the expiration dates. I wanted to make sure that I could keep my seasonings labeled, what their expiration date is. So what I'm doing is simply on the bottom of each jar, I have this, I'm just showing this is like industrial strength Sharpie, and I'm just going to write each expiration date on the bottom on the glass. There's actually this like nice recessed square area underneath each jar. And so I know that the expiration date won't get rubbed off because it's, protected, recessed up underneath each jar. And then even though these expiration dates won't rub off, it will be easy to go and just take a Q-tip and use a little bit of acetone and wipe the expiration date off whenever I need to refill the spice jar with a new spice. Whenever the old one runs out or expires, I can change it out and change out the expiration date at the same time. Once I had all of the spice jars labeled, it was time to transfer all of my seasonings into their new jars, and that was quite a job. And I just wanted to show here these 4-ounce jars. They were a decent size, but you have to be careful. I wouldn't get any smaller than 4 ounce. Um, these, I had all these different brands of seasonings from Walmart, and the largest one there on the far left, all of that size container did not fit into these 4-ounce jars. It was just a little bit too much for it. And make sure when you're filling your spice jars that you tap the bottom of, after you fill it up, tap it down on your countertop, and that's going to settle those spices down and make more room in the jar. And really, the less air that's in your spice jar, the better, the longer it'll keep fresh. So you want to tap it on the counter and just tamp down those spices and make more room. I didn't realize that at first, but then after a while, after I did it, I was like, oh wow, that made a huge difference and made a lot more room in each jar. But the rest of these sizes fit nicely. The McCormick there, their regular size, they're in the middle, their regular size of seasoning, that all of that fit into the 4-ounce jars that I bought. And obviously the little tiny one did too, but all of those regular sizes, it was just that Great Value brand on the far left with the black cap. That size, I just had a little bit left over that wouldn't fit in that 4-ounce jar. I love my new spice rack and the jars, and this is a much better system than what I had. Thank you so much for hanging out today and watching this video. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel. It helps the channel out a lot. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. See you next time.